up, my purposeful people? Welcome back to my channel. This week we are talking about making excuses. I've noticed that when I am beginning to work on things in my life, how much more they come to the surface, and I notice them in other people and in my environment. The first thing that I realize is that I'm not the only person who struggles with this. So what can I do to eliminate myself from following in those same trends that go on in my environment, and then push myself to break those excuses, to go beyond those excuses? Finding a solution to my excuse is how I'm going to move through that process. So making my bed every morning. That's something I really wanted to incorporate into my days. Every single day, make my bed. Now I'm doing a lot better. However, there are days where I just don't do it. I could list out every excuse in the book as to why I don't make my bed that morning, but instead of doing that, I want to find a solution for it. So if it's 3 p.m. that day and I'm I forgot to make my bed, I don't let it sit there until the next morning because I missed the morning time of making my bed. I'll make my bed in the afternoon. I'll only have it made for a couple of hours instead of all day, and then I'll sleep and then wake up and make it the next morning. I'm trying to break the habit of falling off or not achieving a goal that I set for myself and then being well, I told myself that I only do this in the morning time, so if I miss it in the morning, I have to wait for the next morning. No, it's about picking up where I left off. I have learned about myself that when I set excuses, I believe them. And I'm you know what? I'm right. That's fair. I told myself I was only making the bed in the morning, so I'll just do it tomorrow. That's fine. Just forget about today, do it tomorrow. Now there are times where days go by and I don't make my bed. I'm not saying I'm perfect. I'm not saying that because I set this goal to make my bed every day that I do it. I just know that when I do make my bed, I feel a whole lot better. I've accomplished a task. It keeps me out of laying in my bed throughout the day. And then at night, I'm I get to pull back the sheets and lay in a freshly made bed. There's something that is thrilling about that to me, so I really enjoy it. So something small like making your bed every day is something that I'm trying to eliminate excuses from, so that when the larger things come up that maybe have something to do with work or a relationship or a decision on where I'm going to live, I remember that when I'm making that excuse, it's not benefiting me because of that short-term and temporary feeling of I can breathe, I can relax. I do so heavily believe in giving yourself grace, 100%. I think in any aspect, me being hard on myself is not beneficial. Even if I make a huge mistake and I knew I wasn't supposed to do it, and in my mind, it ruined everything that I had going on in that moment, I still try and not beat myself up for it, because if it happened, it was meant to happen. And if it didn't work out the way I thought it was going to work out, it's going to work out in my favor in a different way, because I am intentionally trying to do well and I didn't do it with ill intent. My hope is that because I'm leading with good intent, good things are going to come from it. We all make mistakes. We all do things. We all set standards and sometimes don't meet those standards. So I don't like to beat myself up, but I know that if I continue to make excuses for me not doing something, then my intention changes. And I'm well, I know I wanted to do this for this reason, but it's been so consistent of me not doing it that I'm making an excuse for myself now. And that is what's hurting me. There is a very fine line between giving yourself grace and making excuses for yourself. The second you cross over from that grace line to the excuse line, it's a dangerous territory. Because I know that I've given myself grace, and then those excuses become so long-winded that I'm now like 3 weeks out and I'm looking at myself like, what happened? And those are the moments where I have to challenge myself to get right back into it. I've done that with working out. I've done that with something as small as making my bed. I have done that with YouTube. I'm now having this like aha moment, as Oprah calls it, to like realize that giving yourself grace is awesome. But the second you realize that you have been given grace, you get right back to it. Because in the blink of an eye, it will become an excuse that you make for yourself. Well, I don't have the time. I would say that's the biggest excuse that a lot of us hear, right? I don't have the time. But it's like, we all have the same amount of time. I have the same amount of time as Beyonce. Beyonce and I have the same exact amount of time in all of our days. She doesn't get an extra minute. And look at the work that she's done, or, oh gosh, I hate comparing, but I think a lot of people do need to see that comparison. Like, people are like, oh, well, they have it made. Yes, people may have better resources than us, but how are we using our time? Because we're not even taking advantage of the resources that we have. If I have a day, I need to be more intentional about how I'm going to use that time. Whether it's like intentionally knowing that I'm not allowed to be on my phone, or I'm not allowed to lay on the couch, or I'm not allowed to do certain things until I complete the tasks I need to complete. So maybe I can reward myself with those things later on in the day. Rest is 100% necessary. So don't think that like, oh, because I'm making excuses for myself, or because I'm giving myself a little bit of grace, that I don't get to rest. No, but accomplish your tasks in the morning, or at the beginning of the day, or before you give yourself too much time to rest, so that you're not working twice as hard to get back to that routine that you've already started building for yourself. Think about how we are making excuses for ourselves, and if those excuses are limiting us and hurting us, or if they are actually helping us get to where we want to be. Lead with good intention, give yourself grace, and know that when you allow yourself to have excuses and reasons for why you didn't do something or why you did do something, take inventory of that. Like, okay, what am I actually saying? Whatever happened throughout that day, check back in with yourself and be like, this happened. Was that my intention, or did it go differently? And then find a solution of like how you can improve from that. Even if you don't do it in the moment, or you make a mistake again, if it doesn't happen the way you thought it was gonna happen, that's okay. Like, this is life, we are human, we are not perfect. But I'm making an attempt right now, and I'm putting it on camera so that I can hold myself accountable, that when I say I'm going to do something and I end up not doing it, don't make an excuse for it. Be like, look, it happened, I made a mistake. Holding yourself accountable, do you know how much vulnerability that takes? And how confident in yourself you have to be to say, I made a mistake? When you get to the point of accepting, like, you have failed, you have made a mistake, something didn't go the way that you thought it was gonna go, or you didn't do something the way you were supposed to do it in your mind, be truthful, be honest, instead of trying to cover it up or make it sound pretty or make it look pretty because of other people's opinions. Just be like, look, I made a mistake. If you find that you are struggling, or you are being stagnant, or you are not progressing in an area that like you see you can achieve, or you know that you can achieve, take some time to reflect and ask yourself, like, am I making excuses for why I'm not getting to that point? Or is there something that's actually affecting me? And if there is something that's affecting you, figure out what that is and figure out how to avoid it. Figure out how to get away from that so you don't limit yourself anymore. Life is a forever journey. Life is about figuring out myself and figuring out how I can be my best self to thrive in my environment. And YouTube is one of the ways that I'm doing that. So if you're making excuses for yourself, I find that in those moments where I'm like, that sounds like an excuse, to figure out an alternative. What is your solution? How are you going to eliminate those excuses so that you can do and be the best version of yourself? So what I've learned from this video is that giving yourselves grace is so very important. But there's a fine line between giving yourself grace and then it becoming an excuse. Are you letting excuses lead you throughout your entire day, which now turns into the week, the month, the year, your life? Or are you being intentional and taking inventory on your life on a daily basis and realizing the things that you need to start picking up on? We all have the same amount of hours and minutes in our days. Let's be intentional about how we use them. Reduce those excuses from your life. Make the change, shock yourself, and be impressed with what eliminating excuses can really do for you. If you have enjoyed this video, go ahead, give it a thumbs up. I appreciate you for watching and sticking along with me. If you enjoy this type of video or you've enjoyed other types of videos I've put out, you can subscribe to my YouTube channel. And if you want to be notified every time, click the little notification bell and it'll email you or notify you every time I post a new video. And if you have any comments, if you have any tips that you set for yourself on how to not fall into your excuses and let your excuses lead you throughout the day, I appreciate those, because all I'm doing for myself is what I believe works. But there are sometimes another perception or another person's opinion of what they think or what they do that helps them, helps me. That's how we all help each other throughout this life. So leave a comment if you have anything that you feel would be of value for me to know, so that in turn, I can learn a little bit from you. I don't want people to get the perception that I know everything or I have all the answers. I just have my opinions and my experiences. So setting excuses is not good for me. It's a huge limiter on my life. And I know that with those excuses, it slows me down. So I'm working and publicly putting out there that I am making an effort to eliminate excuses from my life to see how much more I can grow to become the person that I really want to become. If you haven't already, set a goal for the day. Make sure you achieve that goal. Don't make any excuses for that goal. And thank you again for doing Styles with Purpose. I will see you on the next video. Have a great day. Thanks. Bye. 'Cause you push play.